told you I had to bring up game night, because game night is where it is not easy to steal scenes from, some of those people that you're in that movie with, and yet you did it. And you did it in a way where it's like, what? And for people who maybe weren't familiar with your work, we're like, well, who's that guy? That guy's hilarious. Tell me about working on that movie, man.
Again, a great ensemble to be a part of. I think working with a community like Jonathan Daly and Jonathan Goldstein, the director, was fantastic. Bateman, McAdams, like Lamorne Morris, they're all fantastic to work with. But you're working with people where they weren't selfish. They constantly like, let's share it. Like we only are as good as everyone around us. So if we elevate it for everyone, it could always grow. And so I've had the opportunity, and I hope to continue this way, is to work with artists that continually want the project to be good, not just themselves.
Right.
Because we all have come across the situation where it's me. And that always kills everything. And no one wants to play with that.
No, and I think that it's as we can throw it back to the franchise once again. They play on that inside of this show, where it's like you can say, "Well, I want to be number one on the call sheet, and I'm going to try to disrupt it." But if you do that, then things are just going to fall. If it's about I think it's the whole basis of this conversation as far as being genuine and also what's the best interest of the actual project and you in general, right? And so because there's people, it drove me nuts in a good way watching the show because that this shit happens in the studio where it's like, hey, I know that this director has their vision and I know this, but we got this note that so-and-so wants us to do this, so now we got to do it. Because that stuff happens all the time.
Oh my God. Having a production company, getting a note that is just a note that has no affiliation with the story or whatever. They're just like, we don't want to lose our job. There was a great thing that, what's his name was talking about? I think Vince Vaughn brought it up. Mm-hmm. There was just like this people that, I don't want to say all of them are, they take kind of IP and they're like, they can point to it and be like, no, this is the algorithm told me to do this, so I did this. You can't fire me. No, we forgot that the whole thing is human connection. That is what art is. It's a reflection of life, not a computer algorithm or like checking boxes.
It drives me crazy. I worked for Joe Silver for about 3 years. I worked in the Warner Brothers system, and I saw all that stuff, and I was there when we almost got, like, I brought in He-Man. I thought He-Man the Masters of the Universe, and watching what studio executives were doing, I thought it should have been Lord of the Rings meets Star Wars. That was my whole thing. My whole pitch was
it should be.
And watching what they were doing, and the studio exec who didn't get it at first, but now that we did it, talking, showing other people, the investors, oh, this is Balernia instead of Eternia, and going through, and just like, I'm out. I went back into stand-up comedy, left this whole thing in general because I was like, I just can't, the meddling around it, and you see it in this show. It's like, it's for people who don't understand the business, what's happening in the franchise is legit what happens in this business, and we talk about it in the show all the time.
Yeah, it's if people want to feel a part of it, which you can be. And sometimes the best note is saying, keep going.
Do your thing. Like,
do your thing.
Trust.
But that's the problem that I've found a lot of times. You have people that are not creatives making decisions, and you're going like, the character would never do that.
Right.
The character would never do that. Why does that exist? Hamesh and the stick, the stick thing.
Right.
And he's like, that makes no sense. Like, you can't add.
No,
it's frustrating, but
I know.
I don't know, man.
It's all those dollars. It's all those dollars, man. And everybody thinks that they want to be the one that makes the decision. Like, oh, I came up with that,
but if it doesn't succeed, they're like, it's that person's fault.
And they say that as much in the show. They're like, oh, no, don't worry. If it doesn't go right, we'll have your back. Like, no, you won't. You will not have your back at all.
They won't at all.